Well then, welcome to today's episode of Flow Meter Guy, where the currents of wit and wisdom flow as we explore the journey of people building successful and unique businesses. Today's guest is the president of Colorado's largest test and balance firm, and he has graciously taken time out of his busy schedule to come and join us. Well then, young man, what's your name and what do you do for a living?
My name is Donald Pittser, and I'm the president of Jedi Balancing.
Jedi Balancing. Did I hear you say Jedi as may the force be with you? Or are these droids you're not looking for? Or
we're here to
I am
bring
your
balance.
father.
Yeah, we're here to bring balance.
You're here. We're here to bring balance there. Well, then, what was your favorite movie by any chance?
Well, of course, I am a Star Wars fan, and so I would have to say probably the original Star Wars is my favorite of all the movies.
Now, I see on your shirt there that you actually have two lightsabers there.
Yes.
It's
yes.
Part of
So the name Jedi is an acronym. It's all capitalized letters. Jesus exists deep inside. So March 1st celebrated 23 years with Jedi Balancing.
Wow.
So you never know how things are going to go when you start your own business, but it's been a fun ride.
The joys of running your own business, huh?
Yes.
Well, we're glad that you're Jedi fans. And I just, before I forget there, I have beside my desk, I usually have a sword here just to defend myself as well.
Yeah, I've got one in here too.
Now, if I've been told that this is the red sword, this is the bad guy. So I'm supposed to have the other color sword. So that's the bad news when you have engineers work for you and they're all gamers.
Yep.
There's no problem with getting stock here. Well, besides having fun with building your business there, what do you do for a hobby outside the activities of the business?
Well, I've got a unique story. I have a 25-year-old daughter, and who graduated college, and she's an EMT up in Pittsburgh.
EMT? And, oh, goodness.
Yes. And even though I'm 56, I also have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old daughter.
That'll keep you young.
Yes. So I'll be 70 when the youngest one gets out of high school. But so I enjoy him like a father, of course, but I also enjoy him like a grandfather being older. But I spend a lot of time when I'm in town with my children. So we do the bike riding, we do lacrosse, and so I spend time with them when I'm home. So their mother and I. So
well, you'll have a busy family. Well, as we're talking, we'll post some pictures of your lovely family you have before you're there today. Now, have you always lived in Colorado, or is that where you just camped out lately?
So I was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was raised in Wasso, just a suburb, but I served a 5-year sheet metal apprenticeship. Before that, though, I went to the University of Oklahoma, studied accounting, business management, business law, and my first job that I ever had was working in the sheet metal union, which is what my father did. And so I was just a summer helper, and 16 years old when minimum wage was $3.35, I was making $5.25 an hour.
Wow.
So I was scoring it big. And I got to work with my dad the second summer in between high school and college. And my dad said I was hired from the neck down. So I just used my muscles and I lifted things, and that's what my job was. And when I was working with my father, I was either doing the dirtiest job in the shop, which was cutting duct liner insulation and gluing it inside of ductwork. Yeah. And me and my oldest cousin, Alan, we would switch places. And the other days we would be in the hospital wearing shirts like this, holding up this box, calling out numbers. And so that was how I learned how to turn air into money. So
wow,
I'd rather do this than that. So a long way around it. That's what I ended up doing for a living.
The joys of working for family.
Yes. So yeah, and I served an apprenticeship with the sheet metal union, Local 270, and the economy turned down in Tulsa, as it sometimes does, and I moved out to we moved out to Colorado when they were building the Denver airport. So anybody that could hold a caulking gun and had a heartbeat could get a job. And
For sure.
I finished my apprenticeship here, and I've moved here in '93, and safe to say that it's home. So we've been here since then.
Been to the airport many, many, many times there. Well, that's great. And I also saw some pictures that you sent me. I saw a very nice looking car there. Was that
Yes,
a vintage, let's say 67 GTO, was it?
close, very close. It's a 1965 convertible. My dad was
Wow.
the he was the first original owner. It was owned by a dealership that used it for drag racing because that's what those cars were made for.
Yeah.
So it gets out in the sun here. It's all original. It's a survivor, and so yeah, we call it Grandpa's car. My dad, when he passed away, my mother gave it to me 2 years later,
Yeah.
and so it gets out in the sun, and there's no seat belts in the back,
Oh,
one mirror on the side.
yeah. No, I grew up, my first car was a 1969 GTO.
Yes.
And so I have an affinity for the car, and it's one big hunk of metal. How's that?
Hmm.
The world has changed as far as automobiles go there, but it's moves. It
Yes,
moves.
I'm glad that I was taught how to drive manual because it's a 4 speed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Four
it's
speed on the floor. Oh,
yes.
geez. Yeah, those were the days. That's when I got my first speeding ticket. So
Yep.
I learned real quick what not to do.
Yeah,
Um,
those they weren't meant for going slow. They'll overheat if you drive them too slow too long. So
That's yeah, no, here you go. And those were the first series of cars that had mag tires. Try to replace the mag wheels back then. They were actually made out of magnesium. And so the world has changed so dynamically here. So great toys there. You briefly mentioned you went to school and
yes.
you focused on the business world as opposed to what you're doing right now, although it sounds like it may have helped you in the long run here.
Yes, I when I transferred here, I became a member of local number 9. It was the sheet metal workers local. Now it's called the Smart Local, which is the sheet metal and transportation union. And so I've been in there for over 35 years now. So I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up, but it's been a good industry. When I moved here to Colorado, I on my first day of the job for a company, I brought in my toolbox that we built in sheet metal class with all my sheet metal tools. And they said, what's that for? It's like, for, I said, well, you're not going to need that. I was like, well, we're going to need them sometimes. Like, all
Yeah.
we do is air balancing. And I was like, I've never heard of such a thing as independent air balancing. So that was the start. And it's been a really good industry. So except for 1 year, the entire time since from 1993, I've been full-time air balancing, air and water balancing in commissioning.
So let's talk about that. The little world, the little narrow niche of a marketplace that you're in.
Mhm.
Let's define what the balancing is first off. What do you do?
Okay.
Why do we need to do this?
Yeah, so we're Sparkies. Our electricians are called Sparkies, and
You know,
sheet metal workers are called Tinners. We're called balancers. And so um, back in the early days, you just put in systems, and air and water follows the least resistant path. And as energy became more expensive, the systems had to become more efficient and more complicated. And so after the engineers design it and the builders install it and build it, we come in and basically test drive the buildings. We test drive the cars. So we come in and make things work as best we can to the design parameters. Of course, a big part of our job is quality control. We're finding issues and problems along the way. We get those resolved, and so testing, adjusting, and balancing is what this is called. And we primarily work on air systems, but we also have hydronic systems. That would be chilled water
so
and heating water.
the purpose of this then is either to building a new building or refurbish a building, and your customer are they the owner of the building or the organization that owns the building? How does that
Yes.
kind of work?
Yes. So every commercial building is required to have a certified tab report to get their CO. So it's built into the codes. So that's mandatory.
Okay.
And so test and balance has really grown through the years in that manner. And so our clients preferably you want to work as high up the ladder as you can. So working for the owners is a great place to be. So we do have some of those type of contracts. Under that, we do work a little bit of work with design engineers doing energy retrofits and initial readings. We do some work with general contractors they're in charge of building the buildings. And then under that is mechanical contractors and then sheet metal contractors. And so the farther down you are on the list, the longer it takes to get paid. And
the longer it takes to get paid. Yeah, that comes down to it. It's not a hobby.
You're right. And as a business owner, you're both the banker and you're the guy that orders the toilet paper. So you do everything. You're the janitor. You're everything in between. So the higher up you can get on the ladder, the quicker the money comes. And so that's who we work for. Now on U.S. government projects, all of our subcontracts are mandatory. They're through the prime contractor, the general contractor.
So you mentioned some of the government contractors, and we've talked about you've had some. You packed on some miles on a few particular locations there. So I would assume these projects are abroad. Yes. And why don't you tell us about some of those projects?
So the U.S. government spends money in every continent and most every country. So I'll start off by saying that my introductory after being in the industry for quite a while, I took my first certification test. It was through our sheet metal union, TABB, Testing, Adjusting, and Balancing Bureau, and so I became a certified technician. That was in 1998, and in 1999, I took NEBB, which used to be called the National Environmental Balancing Bureau. Now it's just NEBB. Took their certified supervisor. Now it's the certified professionals exam, and so that was those licenses, those certifications are required to do much of our work. When we did this back in those days, the TABB didn't have any certified supervisors, and TABB didn't have certified technicians. So they both have changed and morphed through the years. But in having those certifications, the firm has to have certifications to do U.S. government work, and so. That leads into one time we received an email from TABB. It was a mass email to all the contractors. And they said, can somebody help this contractor out? This is in Georgia. Be careful. It's not the Georgia you're thinking of. It was Tbilisi, Georgia. Now, I didn't know what Tbilisi, Georgia was.
Not Atlanta, Georgia, huh? Okay.
It's not Atlanta, Georgia. So unknown to me, there's the Republic of Georgia over by Turkey and in between Turkey and Russia. And so I looked at it as like, okay, why not? So the specifications are the same things we see here in the States. I sent an email and to the contractor from Turkey, and they were managing the project. The construction managers for the project was Bechtel Construction, which is huge company. They did the Boston Dig, the Hoover Dam. They're a huge company. And the Turkish contractor, they were responsible for bringing in test and balance. And it doesn't exist in Turkey at that time. So a couple of emails back and forth, and 10 days later, I was on my first international flight to Istanbul.
Wow. Didn't take a whole lot of time, huh?
Yes. So, as being an owner, you're playing poker with your own money. So no contract in hand, caught the plane over to the East Coast and then on over to Istanbul, and was there for 3 or 4 days. That's when I learned that, these cultures, they negotiate everything over and over and over. And so when do you get to the best price? So we negotiated a price for this project. It was a biological research laboratory and in Tbilisi, Georgia. And he's the client, he said, okay, tomorrow we're going to Georgia. So we took the next flight over to the country next door to Georgia and walked into a conference room, remote construction site, and there were 12 Americans looking back at me, and they were happy to see me, and I was happy to see them. So we brought the required certifications in, and we ended up, that was our first international job. And so in 2010, I went over for 2 months of tab work, and during the tab process, Bechtel hired us to do a 90-day support commissioning to help them get the lab online. And so I lived in the Republic of Georgia for 5 months in
Wow.
2012.
Wow.
And that was our first international project.
Well, that is quite a project there. Quite a
Yes.
project. So in building your firm, your organization, so basically you start out and then you have, this is a service-based business. So there's hands-on, and then somebody's got to monitor the hands-on. So I assume you're at the top of the heap there. You have to bring a team on board. When you went to these various places, would you bring the normal team, or you pick new people for this particular project or things like that?
Well, the interesting thing about Test and Balance is you can absolutely make a living with one guy in a truck.
Really?
In a van, yes. So, most companies, myself included, started with a shoebox and a little table in the basement and a crew, and into to larger projects. And of course, bonding and credit, is real important as you move up the ladder. Insurance, larger insurance policies. So when we do remote work, depending on the size, we will always. I go to every international project that we do. One time, I'll tell. I worked in Afghanistan for several years, but when we traveled, we do take only our senior people, so our other NEB certified professional, also TABB certified supervisor. We've done a few jobs together in Kazakhstan and Turkey, and some support projects like that, and we'll team up on some travel projects inside of Colorado too. We also went to Japan together. So for the most part, though, I travel by myself, and they give us the ladder and the support and the labor, and we make it work. We work with their engineers on site, and
you have to work under all the diverse conditions. I saw some of the pictures again. I don't know what the time that you went to Afghanistan, but we showed me a lot of bullet holes in the wall and some things that were destroyed. That was part of the problem. Probably a little bit of airtime and helicopters flying you in and out. Kind of raises the hair on the back of your head. I see you have a vest on there in one of the cases there. You're under some unique conditions. And these are like government facilities, I assume, that were at one time in the danger zone. How's that feel?
Yeah, so after the Georgia, the very next international job we did was in Bagram Airfield, Afghanistan. So,
yeah.
So that was, we started working there, and there, as they built up the base, ended up going in and out of Afghanistan all the way through 2014. Did a couple of things in 2015, and so yeah, it was dangerous. And you're inside of an air base.
Sure.
All the officers are carrying pistols. All the enlisted are carrying rifles. We were issued body armor, but we didn't carry any weapons. And then doing projects in Kabul, you'd have to fly by helicopter, and wear body armor as you fly in helicopters. So unique projects. Hard hats stronger than other hard hats.
I would say so. So you come back with some really interesting stories, more so than the typical project stories, I bet, huh?
Yes.
They're better to be told now than when you were there, probably.
Yes, and so it's the same specifications, same type of jobs we do here. Working overseas, they just lie to you in a different language. Sir, it's ready, sir. So it's the same thing we do, and of course there's excitement, of course there's adrenaline, of course there's danger. Not all jobs are danger. We work on remote islands that are paradise, and we've worked literally. We haven't worked in Australia or Antarctica, but we worked on all the other continents so far. So that it doesn't stink all the time. But
picking up a yen then for some of the interesting flavored projects then around the world. So
yes, yeah, and so we're doing our part. The service members do their part. Everybody everybody likes to do what they can, and so this is important. People need clean air. These special buildings have very specialized systems where they can shut down for chemical attacks, and of course they have seismic built in for non
Oh,
natural events.
non-natural. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Now,
but
how
we
about
finished
then?
Afghanistan.
How about the COVID situation? How did that enter your world, and how did that affect it?
Well, after Afghanistan, I was working in Qatar. We have Al Udeid Air Base, which is the largest land-sized air base that America has, and it's um, uh, Qatar is a very safe country, very very clean country. So we worked in Qatar, and from 2015 through 2020, and when COVID hit, I had just finished a large project. We do testing and balancing and commissioning services, and I just finished up a couple of really large projects over there. And my wife from the country of Georgia, which is about a 3-hour flight away. So when I was working overseas, she was in Georgia, and our first daughter was there with her, and so I could go over on the weekend and fly back to, our home there and her family's home, and
Wow.
when COVID happened, we happened to be in Georgia at the time, and it comes on the news that this thing called, they don't know what it is, COVID is happening, and they're going to shut down all the flights coming to USA in 7 days. So I booked a flight right after the video, watching it online, and I flew out the next day. Had to go through Germany and then through Poland. Had to go a different route that I normally travel, because we have direct flights into Denver from Germany and Istanbul now. But so people wearing suits, taking our temperature, nobody knows what's going on. I
Sure.
got back 6 days before they shut down all the flights, so my family was
Wow.
stuck over there for 4 months until things came back around. And all the time that I've traveled, I spent more time out of the country than in the country from 2010 through 2020. And so COVID brought me back, and I transferred, back here full time into Colorado, and kept our family home here. And so COVID was a big change. And then, of course, in our type of industry, the we were essential workers, so we didn't see what a lot of people got stuck with COVID.
Sure.
We were out at working at hospitals, building emergency isolation rooms, emergency hospitals, and all the things that became important. A lot of things, there's so many things changed, and so COVID was unique in that I've been primarily in USA. We still have international projects, from time to time, but I spend a lot more time in USA, which
Hmm.
has been.
Did the regulations change after COVID and how the building requirements were?
Well,
They
I'd
evolved?
say I'd say the good news is about United States. A lot of places use our codes because they are very top notch.
Are they?
I
Okay.
think it brought it more to the public's mind about what is fresh air, what's indoor air quality, uh, you know, um, air changes per hour, which is real important. How much supply, whatever you blow in, has to be pulled out, sucked out, and how clean is that air. So the world became more educated about what people like us do, setting up operating rooms and infectious control rooms, isolation rooms, both positive and negative. A burn patient, you want a positive room. You don't want anything to come inside. And someone who's very sick and ill, you don't want their nasties to go out in the hallway. So those are negative rooms. And yeah, it became very important. I think that of course, hospitals continuously build and innovate, and so the systems have gotten a lot more complicated. And so that's a big part of our project, is understanding anything that gets brought to market. We have to figure out a way to make it work and learn together.
So you're still a businessman. You're still trying to run a business, and at the
Yes.
same time, the changing and the technology keeps evolving. And
Hmm.
I see that you have all kinds of certificates and specifications you need to meet your specific market. Where do you get this new education going on? Is this, you mentioned that some other organizations like NEB and TAB and places like that, that they provide the training that you have to get the certification? Is that how it works?
Yes, that's exactly how it works. And from time to time, we can take classes given provided by control contractors.
Hmm.
A lot of it is on the job. We're working directly with the digital control contractors. They program everything. We come in and do the calibrations and make everything read properly and
Hmm.
calibrated is the term. especially with what's called VAVs, variable air volume, which is a huge product here in USA, and not so much in the other countries where energy is still cheap. But so we do get our training. I took my original training through the sheet metal apprenticeship, and then I took advanced tab classes through TABB, and then eventually started taking some classes through NEBB as I as I went for my commissioning, and then sound and vibration certification, then building enclosure testing, and now at this point I'm one of the tab instructors for NEBB. We do.
I see that you basically you're a volunteer, by the way. Most of these organizations there, so your group of people, I've noticed a kinship in that they have some strong sense of sharing knowledge with the other people in the organization, which they're competitors. I mean, just think about this. This is a really amazing kinship amongst people to share that. And you, as an extended volunteer with a group of organizations of guys that don't really do this for a living, so to speak, but it's some kind of a yen there. Where, you mentioned you're a member, you're on the board, or what's your role over there? Some of these organizations.
So I started with the Rocky Mountain NEB chapter. Started on their board of directors in 2002, and I've served them through the years, and then I was the chapter president 2007 through 9. And and then after that, I've stayed on their board. But when I moved overseas in 2010, I came off of their board of directors. And then actually in 2014, I came off their board, and then I came back on in 2020 when I moved back. They asked me to come back, and so I currently serve on the Rocky Mountain board of directors. And when we talked about education, a big thing that's important is national conferences. So we go to some of the TABB conferences and the NEB conferences. There's also a third certification agency, AABC. And at the national conferences, this is where you see the new and cutting edge. This is how you and I met with ultrasonic measurements, tab measurements, digital reporting, which we all take for granted now, but we are the original paying customer for AirNav, which is building start.
Are you? There you go.
So we're innovators. So you help work the bugs out, and so it's really good to go there. And at all the conferences, there are sessions on the different specialties within the technical disciplines, and so we teach at those. And then and so I started going to the NEB conferences in 2000 through 2009. When I moved overseas, of course, when I was working overseas, I couldn't attend. But while going to those conferences, you get noticed. And in 2005, I was asked to join the TAB committee at the NEB national level. And so here I am. I'm the young guy, and myself and Mike Kelly, who's the current NEB president, and Don Hill, who's a past president. Mike was brought into fume hoods, and Don Hill was brought into clean rooms. And so we were the kids and the spark plugs. And so I served on the TAB committee 2005 to 2009. And then when I came back, went to the NEB conference in 2015 in Hawaii, and I was able to make that my first time to Hawaii. And when I was there, I'd been gone for 5 years. I was asked by NEB President Jim Huber if I would consider joining the NEB board of directors. And so I was quite honored, and I got elected. And so I served a 2-year term. And when I came onto the NEB board of directors at the end of 2015, I was also asked to join the TAB committee again. So, I was recycled onto the TAB committee, and I've been there ever since. And so I was asked to step up as vice chair for 2018, and in 2019 I became the chairman of the TAB committee. So
there you go.
So that's led to all the being an instructor and
absolutely. It's all about sharing information, but at the same time, it's presenting the information. You certainly have after our conversation today, it's a style that's warming, it's knowledgeable, and never offensive in any way. And so it's digestible, And let's face it, some of the people that you trained are very new to what's going on.
Yes.
And so there's different levels of training to get them up to speed. And the bottom line is they're not going to make any money if they're not trained. As
Right.
simple as that. And it's going to cost you money if they're not trained, is what it really comes down to, isn't it?
Yes. And, that you also think back to all the people that have put their fingerprints on you and your knowledge and you and your, your timeline from the sheet metal journeymans that taught us apprentices, going back and we all know Andy Nolfol, he's an instructor, those of us in NEB and he taught all these conferences and technical sessions and seminars, through the years. And then I was able to attend those. And so, next thing you know, the hair's gray and white. And
yeah, I remember. I had a lot of hair back then too. So yeah, it's evolved over the years there. It takes it out of you there.
And next thing you know, you're not you're not the kid in the meeting that they're like, what are you doing here? No. So yeah, time moves us along and staying with the involvement with NEB. I served a two-year term on the board of directors, and then in 2018, Don Hill asked me if I would serve again, and I was not elected, and so then 3 years later, Jeff Schools asked me to come on the board again in 2020, and I was elected. And so had 3 NEB presidents in 5 years asked me to be on the board of directors. And so I'm in my 5th year. You can serve 2-year terms 3 times. Yeah. So I'm in my 5th year with this run plus the other 2. And so I enjoy giving back. I enjoy, working and volunteering for an organization. Of course, when I moved back to USA from overseas, Jedi Balancing has been built on purpose, where everybody has their jobs to do, and I don't have to make all the decisions.
There you go.
My phone doesn't ring unless something really important, and so I have that benefit, and I enjoy that at this point. So I do have time to volunteer. When I came back here full time, I was like, what am I going to do? Well, I've got my corner office that I've always had. And so I certify and review all the reports and things. And
there you go. Well,
but I stay out of everybody's way. And so so that allows me to teach and to volunteer. And I you either do or you don't, but I really enjoy giving back, because not everybody in our sessions and our seminars is even going for NEB. We teach Navy, we teach different Corps of Engineers, we have facilities managers, we have people that are not part of our industry. So, but it is rewarding. You'll go to somewhere else and they'll say, "Hey, Don," and you don't know their names. Like, I see 20 or 30 people every 3 months,
every time
at some conference, and so. But it is very enjoyable. It is very enjoyable, and let's face it, our intent is to leave things better than we found it, and that's and make it digestible. Can you bring it down?
That's fantastic. So you have built your business to a point where you can have a little bit of me time, so to speak, and to do these other things that are important to you. It's like we said, you're a good trainer, and you've also imparted the knowledge that you had. You're underestimating it. Your college education and basically how to run a business.
Yes.
Let's face it, all the things you've done, unless you know how to run a business, doesn't really matter. It's a hobby at that point in time. So you got to make money on a job. You got to build for the future. And then if you build it big enough, then you can have a little me time, which you said you have a little bit of that right now. But at the same time, you just still have to have the patience to deal as a volunteer, because when you're a volunteer, you're a volunteer. And so politics always play a role. So you have to have your preferences and your overall objectives of where you're going. And people keep picking you. So you must have some very nice objectives there. Either that or you have some great negatives on some other people. One of the two, it's working out for you.
Well, and you can feel it, different people you're around. You can feel the peace of mind, peace coming from people's hearts. So, that there's a give and take that happens consciously and subconsciously. And so that's definitely part of it. My father, when I worked with him, and at one time, my older brother, younger brother, and my father, we were all in the in the same union at the same time. I'm
Ah,
the only one still in.
yeah.
But my father taught us. He said whatever you choose to do it very well. Be really good at it. And he said if you make money for the company, they will find a way to keep you around. And so that stuck with me. If I was going to be a stainless welder, I was going to be a good stainless welder. When I delivered pizzas for 2 years, I was good at delivering pizzas. And
There you
so
go.
the hustle is there. And so, you'd like to think, as I listen to your story about you building your businesses and you and your father, it was very eye opening to hear that. But you'd like to say this is by design, but it
No.
happens to you. It
It
happens.
happens. It happens, and you have the core competency to see it through. So
Yes.
I thank you for your adventures there, and just a couple of wrap up questions. Then, so you had a long situation getting to where you're at.
Yes.
You've done some interesting things, and you've done some very difficult things, and you had some wins and you had some loses there. So the thought you had is, you can go back in time to your former self when you started this business, what advice would you give yourself now after putting all these miles in? What would you do differently, or nothing at all?
Well, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
I would say the advice I'd give myself is to invest younger. Um, I found
Yep.
out from my younger brother. He's always been an employee working at shops, making decent money, but he participated in his 401 at a early age and all the matching and he's 2 years younger than me and he's an everyday millionaire, and I was shocked to
That's
find out how does this happen. And so learning about compounding interest, and of course as business owners you can put your money back into the business, which is what happens most all the time.
sure.
And of
Sure.
course uh, grabbing those shinier apples at the top of the tree, that there's risk and reward involved with that. But um, I would say invest younger, and of course the two other businesses I have Pittser Properties, which owns our office building here, and
Oh, good.
we were buying and building houses, remodeling houses, and Pittser Leasing owns all of our fleet of vehicles. But I would say real estate. Real estate is a solid investment, and
Sure.
and everybody would like to go back and say, oh, if we would have bought this 10 years ago,
What
15
a
years.
shoulda. What a
Well, you didn't have money. That's the cruel joke. Is as life goes well, and your credit score goes up, and your need for credit goes down, and it's a cruel joke. But I would say uh, all the experiences that you have through your young years, you need them. You need cruddy jobs so you can respect the good jobs. The lessons learned is how you got the tools in your toolbox.
got the tools in your toolbox. So, do you have a bucket list, or what's in the future for Don?
Well, I want to at least go to Antarctica for a couple of weeks, and Australia
Oh,
for work, and
wow.
we'll get that. But bucket list again. This has been a very interesting ride. Keep in mind, I was my first time to ever take a flight was I was like 32 years old to go work in Lubbock doing test and balance, and then most Americans don't have passports, so I got my first passport in mid 30s, and so what I'm doing now is enjoying time with my family, and getting to spend time with them, because with my oldest daughter there was a lot of times I went to Afghanistan for a 40-day contract, and I was there for 8 months straight, which was
Yeah.
not anticipated. But I get to take my little girls to school every morning when I'm in town, and I still spend over neb for my volunteer agreements. I spend over 30, usually 34, 35 hotel nights on Neb's
Easy.
behalf in
Easy.
the last 3 years. But yeah, so I'm enjoying time with my family, and all the little things, and so spending time with them, but my wife knows this and supports it. But when the emails come in, we have a couple of more international projects that have come online now. But she knows if I got a call to go somewhere, I got to weigh the cost, weigh the risk, and decide whether to go. But so bucket list, there's a couple of places that I'd like to work, just so I can say that I did, but I've been obviously I've been very fortunate, and the main thing is I want to see my children grow up and try to let them have things better than what we had it. That's what all parents want.
That's amazing. So if anybody out there is looking for a balance that will go any place on the planet or maybe other planets, we don't know about that yet, Don Pittser is your guy.
Yes.
Don, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time today. And we look forward to having future conversations with your venture to maybe Antarctica. Who knows?
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And we'll stay in contact, and I'll see you in about a month in Florida.
We'll see that then. So this has been another episode of The Flow Meter Guy. Thank you for coming. Well then, I hope you have found this conversation of interest. If so, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. I will see you on the next video.